going to show you how to program in Pygame. Okay, so for this tutorial, the first thing that you're going to need is that you need a text editor. Now what I mean by that is something like Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text or Notepad and etc. So the one I'm going to be using is Notepad++ because I just got it today and I want to try it out. So the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to, so on your home screen, so here, you're going to right click, go to new, click folder. I'm going to name my folder Python, put it in the corner, then right click again, go to new, text document. I'll name this Python script. You're going to want to put that into your Python folder. Then you want to open up the text editor that you want. Go to File, go to Open. Then you want to select your script right there. And then after that, you want to do your language, so verify the programming language that you're using. So how you can do that is that, so in other text editors, like in text editors that are actually for code, you'd choose the language by the name. So if you want, so in Visual Studio Code, if you want to program in a certain programming language, you'd name your script and then you'd add dot and the name of your programming language. So maybe for Python, you do the name of your file, .py, java, and etc. So like JavaScript, JS, C#, CS, C++, and etc. But since we're in Notepad++, you go to language, then go to the first initial of your programming language. So since the first initial of Python is P, we'd go to P. Then we've got some programming languages that start with P, and then we've got Python here. Now we can get to the actual programming. Now we're going to be using Pygame for this. I could make a tutorial on how to get Pygame, but I don't really know. So how you're going to get, so first you're going to do import Pygame, then pygame.init, and then 2 brackets. Now let's make a window. So we're going to do width, height equals 1366. Well, you can choose width and height of the window that you're creating. I'm just going to do 1366 by 720 because that's the average size of a game window for an average Game Maker game. Sometimes when I use Game Maker, that is the size of the window, 1366 by 720. So this is how wide and high you want your game window to be. Now we're going to make a variable. So I'm going to name my window screen equals pygame.display.setMode. Now we're going to set the width and height of our screen, also known as window, to the value of our width and height, like that. So now let's add a caption to our window. So we're going to do pygame.display.setCaption, and then you're going to do one. Now what I want to do is I use a variable, which is now when we're using variables. So a variable is basically really like a width and height. It's when you name something and assign a variable to it, just like how we assigned 1366 to our width and 720 to our height. So what we're gonna do is that let's make a new variable. So we've already got our width and height as 2 variables. Let's make a third one. I'm gonna name mine title, And now we're going to learn about strings here. What a string is, it's basically like a sentence or a phrase of words. So my title is a string, and let's put something into our string. Let's make our title be game, like that. And then we're going to set our caption to the value of our title. And since we're setting it to the value of our title, since our title's value is game, it would be game. Now, going to run, and now what I have done is I've made a shortcut called run game. You can also do that as well. I could also try to make a tutorial on how to run your program in Notepad++, but it could be very easy to run it if you're in Visual Studio Code, because in Visual Studio Code, all you really do is just press F5. Anyway, so my shortcut that I made is Shift plus F5. So let's do Shift F5 now. Oh yeah, so there's one big detail. See these orange lines? Well, every time we make a line, a new orange line is there. Now, if the lines are orange, that means if you find any orange line in your code, that means the code isn't saved. So you press this button, and now they're green. If the line is green, that means your code is saved. But you need to make sure every single line is green. All right? Else your game will have errors. Now let's run it. So we've got a window by the name of game. Now, we also will use loops, but for some text editors, we just don't need a loop. But they're still important. So we're just going to do it. Anyway, so let's make a new variable called run and set it to true. Now, while run equals true for event in pygame.event.get if event.type equals pygame.quit. And now, see this. If you're doing stuff, if you're gonna type in stuff like if you want to do while loops or for loops or if statements or else statements, you've always got to add a colon at the end. Else the code's just not going to work, because if I don't add a colon, the code's not going to work, as you can see. And now in Notepad, I'll tell you some stuff. So like, if I add a colon, this will appear. But if I don't add a colon, it won't appear, which means your if statement is not done correctly. So if event.type equals pygame.quit, run equals false. Now, I'm going to go down a bit, go all the way to the end here. I'm going to do pygame.quit. Now, so let's just save the code, Shift +5. And it's just the same thing, but I just feel like it's a very important detail. Now, let's get to the real stuff. Let's do some more stuff. So, let's do adding variables. So, let's say you've got a number. So, we've got number 1 that equals 1, and we've got number 2. Well, okay, we'll actually rely on that later. Alright, let's print numbers. So, we're going to do that we do print 1. So, let's see what that will do. Oh, yeah, we forgot to save that. Now, it prints 1. Now, let's say we print 1 plus 1. Now, you might just think it's just going to print 1 plus 1. But no, that would only happen if these were in quotation marks. Quotation marks, which would make them a string, but they're not. So 1 plus 1 is 2. That means it would print 2. Now this is where we get to adding variables. So let's make a number. Let's do number 1 equals 1, number 2 equals 1. Then we could print number 1 plus number 2. And then if we save that, shift plus 5 is 2 because we're adding our two numbers together and they're both the same to 1. So if we're adding the value of both of these variables, we're adding the value of them. Since that one's 1 and that one's 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. So then it would print 2 to the output or to the command prompt, because that's what I have right now. Okay, so now for the final part here, let's get to drawing objects into our window. So we're going to have to deal with the object's width, the object's height, the object's variable so we can control it, and then actually drawing the object to the screen. Now, to keep things easier, we're going to put this loop into a function, which is now when we can begin learning about functions. A function will have a piece of code in it. And now, that piece of code won't run until we call the function. So let's say we have a function that's called print, and in it we're going to print a string of hello world. It's not going to be printed yet, but when we call the function just by typing the name of it and putting in 2 brackets, then hello world will be printed. So in Python, we do that by doing define and then the name of a function. So I'll name this game loop and then colon. Then here, we're gonna, in our game loop, we're gonna paste in that code. Again, let's just rewrite the code. It's not that hard. Run equals true, while run equals true for event in Pygame dot event get if event dot type equals Pygame dot quit run equals false. There. And now probably on top of our Pygame.quit, we can then call the game loop function. And that's 2 brackets. Then let's go. Okay. Oh yeah, save. Okay. Same thing. But for a quick test, let's just print loop works, and if this is printed, that means our loop works, and it doesn't because I didn't save it. Will it work now? That's one thing you need to be careful of when typing print in a loop. Alright, there would be a simple fix to that, but I'll talk about that in the next episode. So let's get to drawing our object. So let's do object width. And now, if you want to make your object a square, then the object's width and height are the same. So I'm going to make it a square. So object width equals 50, and then object height equals object width, which means, and now what that means is that the object height equals 50 because it equals the value of our object width, which is 50. So they're both the same. Now let's make a variable for the object. So object equals Pygame dot rect, and that's gonna. So so what should be the x coordinate of our player? I'll do it to something like 1000. right? As you can see, it's less than 1,366. If it was more than 1,366, our object would be off the screen. Same with our height. If it was more than 720, then it would be off the screen. And then let's do its Y like 400. Take away player height. I mean object height. Then object width, and then object height. So what this does is I create a variable for our object with the object's width and object's height. I do not know what's happening now. Oh, come on! Why do we have to rewrite this again? Okay, so object equals pygame.rect. So 500, then 500. I'll do one. I forgot. I did 1,000. Okay. And then 500. Take away object height, object width, object height. And then what we're gonna do is that let's make a new function. So define draw, and then we're gonna draw our object, and then we're gonna do pygame.draw.rect, and then so we're gonna draw it to the screen, and then let's do a color. Now, 2 ways of picking a color in Pygame is by using an RGB color code, or you can actually just use strings. I use strings because it's very simple, so we could just use red, and then object would be red. And then we're drawing our object, and then pygame.display.update. Now updating the display of updating our window is very important when drawing something, because if you don't, the object's not going to be shown because we haven't updated the window yet. Even though we've drawn it, we haven't actually updated the window. So when we update the window, it'll actually be drawn. Then underneath our game loop, we'll just then run or call our draw function. So now, we have to do that again. Now, okay. So we could maybe not use this parameter. We'll also learn about parameters in the next episode. Could try again. Let's just try height. This means that the object will be at the bottom of the screen. So object height. Now, okay. So maybe it's better if we don't use that's because we haven't saved. Okay, so maybe it's better if we actually don't use functions. So we can just go like that, and then we can go down there like that. Okay. So maybe it's because our object is actually off the screen. So then height, take away. I've just written object width and object height so many times. It's actually getting tiring. We might just have to stop the episode here. Okay. And we didn't save it again. Great. There. So now the object's finally been drawn. So that's gonna be all for this episode. Oh my gosh, it's already been 21 minutes.